Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Trump pressured Brooks. Also, prosperity follows institutions. And Moms for Liberty, they're at it again.
Gomez, I've seen little Wednesday looking out the fence at the other children. I think she wants to play with them.
Well, she didn't get that from my side of the family.
How dare she play with those weirdo children? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR, and all-around great guy. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, what? I like that introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you are, Josh, you are. And that,
Especially when you're chopping broccoli.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
you know, it strikes me as odd in a propagandist sort of sense. Whenever there is the word liberty attached to a group or a bill in the legislature, it always means just the opposite. Mm-hmm. So the Moms for Liberty here in Alabama, the Alabama chapter of the Neo-Nazis for Christ. No, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Have released their agenda, and it's all about LGBTQ. Mm-hmm. It's all about banning books. It's all about, they claim to be conservative values. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the Republican Party was the party of liberty in the sense that they wanted the government not in your business or in your bedroom. But Susan, things have changed over the last 20 years when we sort of had a fondness for the Republican ideas, and it has become the party of let's hate and let's be against everyone and let's control people's lives, and that's so discouraging to me because I went back recently and was reading some Russell Kirk, some Charles Krauthammer, some other great thinkers of conservatism, and that's not what they thought.
No, and they're coming now with this HB4, which is led by Arnold Mooney, and they're going to redefine harmful to children and try, with the books in libraries and try to, put it on the teachers and put it on the librarians, essentially, to put them in jail. That's not the only one. There's also another one coming from Mac Butler and Representative Susan DuBose to aim to ban LGBT instruction in schools and redefine sex education. So, we've got serious problems in this state, and you guys are squirreling around with this? Really? We've got healthcare crisis. We've got children, that have food insecurity, and y'all are worried about LGBT books? Get your head out of the sand and go to work getting stuff that actually needs to be done for the state of Alabama, done for the state of Alabama. This is BS, and it's BS to get around doing anything that's meaningful.
Josh, these people don't care about what happens here in Alabama as much as they care about that their ideology is followed and that they make a lot of money doing this, right?
Oh, yeah. First, I'd like to go back and point out the oxymoron of great thinkers of conservatism.
Well, there you go.
Listen, I don't understand how it is that they've allowed Democrats to adopt the phrase, mind your own damn business.
Yeah.
But mind your own damn business. And, the banning of books and, it's a sad state of affairs when the children are more educated, more accepting, more progressive, more compassionate, have more empathy than the leaders who are there trying to make laws for them.
Yeah.
All right. Because you go into these schools and you talk to these kids about LGBTQ issues, They are far more knowledgeable. They are far more well-versed. They are far more accepting. It doesn't even register with them anymore. But instead of just accepting that, we have these morons who run around all of the time doing this stuff because they know that it scares other gray-haired people like them into voting for this nonsense. And as though you're going to be turning people gay by allowing these books or by allowing this education or by limiting the education that students can have about their peers and their friends around them. This is the most idiotic thing that has ever been done. We did the same thing to black people.
Yeah.
You understand that, right? They did the same thing to black people. All right. And we did the same thing to Jewish people. We did the same. You keep on going back. Pick an immigrant class. Pick Hispanics. Pick whoever you want to pick. They've tried to do the same thing to limit out who they're favoring, who they're talking about, all of this stuff to straight white Christian. All right. That's all they care about. They want their narrow views and their narrow beliefs to be what is present everywhere all the time, and they want to exclude everything else. And this is who we're dealing with.
And the thing is, and we know this is true, what we need is a really real solutions to real problems in our state. I mean, if you look, at one time, Governor Ivey would say over and over and over again, we need Alabama solutions to Alabama problems. But of late, all we do in our legislature is take the talking points from like the Heritage Foundation or some other left-leaning group and repackage them for Alabama. And let's be honest, the solutions that would work in Arizona might not work in Alabama. The solutions that work in other red states don't necessarily translate to Alabama because we are unique and we have unique problems. And we do that when it comes to our roads and our bridges. But when it comes to other issues, we just totally forget it.
Well, here's the thing. It's coming out of, if you're getting your talking points out of D.C., that's easy. That's easy. You just, write a bill, wrap it around, say this fits Alabama. Instead of actually defining, what they're doing is defining a problem that doesn't exist. Instead of going and looking for the problems that do exist and trying to find solutions because it's too much work.
Yeah.
They don't want to work. They just want to take the talking points coming out of Washington and say, look, we're doing our job, when they're not.
I mean, Josh, this is a failure of leadership completely because they abdicate the responsibility of thinking to someone else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, take a look around our legislature, on the folks that control the legislature. Not a lot of great thinkers there. I wish that we could do everything in this state the way we do football. Okay? You look at football. You look at our college football, and we don't care about any of the LGBTQ. We're accepting of everybody. Football was the first thing to be integrated around here. We were integrating, welcoming folks in. We didn't have to integrate a football team, but we did because we wanted to be successful, and we knew that was the way to be successful was to integrate the football team. We don't worry about these things. We pay the football coaches properly. We attract the best and the brightest. We train them. We talk about them in loving, glowing terms all the time and how much money and resources we devote to these things. And that could be our education system and that could be our state. But we're too hell-bent on excluding people and doing the talking points and getting the right-wing conservative vote or whatever to worry about actually helping the folks that need the help.
Well, I say amen to what Josh just said.
I agree.
All right, you're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Speed is one of the biggest factors in a fatal car crash. Your car stops, but your body does not stop at the same time. Your body keeps going, and that could be running into your seatbelt, that could be hitting the airbag. Something has to stop it, and unfortunately, it's something very hard.
There have been times that we've come upon accidents where if people weren't speeding, they'd probably still be alive today.
It's truly dangerous, and it puts everybody at risk.
There's just no point to it.
This kind of stuff has got to stop.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. A bombshell revelation out of Bob Woodward's new book reveals that former President Donald Trump contacted Mo Brooks and somehow wanted Mo Brooks to manipulate things so that there could be a new election after he lost in 2020, as if Mo Brooks had some authority there. Even Mo Brooks had to say, Mr. President, he would have said, I don't have any authority, neither does Congress. We have a Constitution, and we have to follow the Constitution. But he was so desperate to retain power, Susan, that he thought that Mo Brooks, of all people, would help him out. And when Mo Brooks didn't help him out, and it looked as if Katie Britt was going to kick Mo Brooks's behind, he switched and moved over to Katie Britt and endorsed her, although she did not need his endorsement. But this was sort of retribution for I guess, Mo not helping him overthrow an election or whatever it was. It's just one of those strange episodes that's now coming to light.
The scary thing here to me is that then President Donald Trump didn't know enough about the election system in our country to know that you can't call a special election just because you didn't like the results of the last one. That's not the way our system works. I don't know about anybody else, but that kind of frightens me a little bit.
Josh, we're facing an election is less than 15 days away or so, and it's going to be close, and you have no idea what kind of shenanigans are going to happen. But this just goes back to something. I think that once the 2020 election was over, people thought maybe Donald Trump would go away because, they were afraid that it just was getting too crazy after January 6th. But no, that's not happened. So, but these new revelations, I don't think they move any voters, but it's just shocking that this has gone on behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's hard to kill a cult. The cultists are devoted to this, and so they're devoted to this, whatever this movement is, and so it's hard to kill them off. I disagree. I think it's not gonna be that close of an election. I think that electoral college speaking, I think Kamala Harris is going to have a pretty wide victory in this. But it is. I think Susan says right. It should scare the hell out of people. That we had a president of the country that was not going to leave, was hell bent on not leaving, okay, and was determined to stay in to the point, and he doesn't understand the basics of this, just the basic function of government. Mark Cuban has talked about this a lot. Mark Cuban was an early supporter of Donald Trump, and then he said as it went on, he learned more and more that Donald Trump was simply not going to learn the issues. He was not going to educate himself on processes. He was not going to grow into the job of being the leader of this country, to the point, actually, that now we have a guy who is president of the United States thinking that he could call up just a random congressman from Alabama and ask for a damn do-over on the election. I mean, it's like you're playing wiffle ball in the backyard with your friends or something, and I'd like to have a do-over. I mean, it's nonsense. And this is who we're talking about. This guy wants the power, and he didn't care about our history. He didn't care about the country. He didn't care about the voters. He didn't care about the institutions. He didn't care about democracy at all, as long as he got to stay in power. And the fact that there are people, millions of people, willing to again go out and vote for what was essentially a coup leader in this country is astounding to me.
Yeah, it is. But here we are, Susan, and when I don't know what it takes for people to understand that, you have to have these basic institutions. Mm-hmm. There have to be basic institutions that are followed, and there's increasing pressure on our institutions that threaten to drive us apart. The Nobel Prize in Economic Science this year basically drills down on the fact that it is not so much natural resources or all the things that we normally think of as what drives prosperous nations, but really more it's acceptance of the intentional prosperity that comes when you follow certain keys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in part of their findings, they found that the more that institutions like the judicial system and our voting system, the more that those get, weakened in people's perspective, the more it erodes the political stability, the more it erodes the economic stability. So by, demonizing our institutions, this is causing, mass concern and mass confusion within our electorate and within our citizens.
And Josh, and they point out that it's strong, inclusive institutions for things like the rule of law, health and welfare. All of these are more determinative of success in a nation. I mean, if you look at, just right across the border, you look at Mexico, that the parts of Mexico that border the United States, and you would think it's two different planets, not just two different countries, because the wealth and prosperity on this side of the border and the poverty on that side of the border, it's not because the land's any different, it's because the institutions are stable.
Yeah, well, listen, you don't have to go to Mexico. You can stay right here in the state of Alabama and look at the flawed institutions and the way that we do things in terms of. Listen, I know I joke a lot about it, but it's seriously. You look at the way that we do things in terms of taxing. You look at the way that we do things in terms of fines and court costs and stuff like that. The way we've essentially priced the poor people out of the systems that govern this state. All right. And so when you do that, you don't feel like you have the representation, and you continue to mash down on those folks, which is why we have one of the worst. We're often voted as having the least amount of upward mobility of any state in the country, because we don't have the institutions in place or the opportunity for people to participate in them. And so yes, exactly what you're saying. If we continue to do that at a national level, some people might call that the Alabamification of America. Well, then you're going to have problems.
And I think the thing is, and I think all three of us here today, we love our state. Mm-hmm. We love our nation. We choose to live here. We're not forced to live here. We live here because we love it and we want to make it better. But I don't see how we ever make Alabama better if we forget the foundations of the rule of law, and that every vote counts, and that people matter. People matter. But we're going to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. You know, there's for the last several years been a lot of conversations around TikTok, a Chinese-owned company that is extremely popular, especially with young people. We see political TikTok videos, we see funny videos, very, very popular, especially with younger kids. Now, there's been some moves to rein in TikTok and its users. Most recently, our Senator Katie Britt has come out forcefully saying we need to limit the age limit on TikTok so that younger children cannot access this app. A report was leaked where TikTok knew they were putting out content to children that they shouldn't have. And so this has become a big deal. I think that's really almost a bipartisan agreement on
it. It is, and we've talked to her in person several times about this very subject. She's very passionate about it. She has young children. She understands the problems, and she understands her main concern, and our main concern is that this growing mental health issue with young people. And TikTok not only knows this is happening, they're not redesigning their algorithm, the algorithm that targets young children. I mean, I've seen it in millennials, just in people we know about their anxiety levels and all that, and their lack of self-confidence. And the only thing that I can equate that happens there is that they put themselves out on these social media platforms and then they get attacked. Well, you know, young people, especially, you know, under 10, certainly can't deal with stuff like that. And so, you know, there needs to be some legislation that reels these companies in and makes them take account for these children's mental health issues.
Yeah. And Josh, you and I from time to time we'll share some TikTok videos back and forth, and there's a lot of funny stuff on there and interesting stuff on there. But you know, you're a dad of a young child. I mean, what's your thoughts on this whole idea of TikTok and having an age limit on who can view it?
Well, I mean, you know, we've talked about this before in terms of other social media platforms, and I'm a firm believer that no kid needs to be on them. You know, I mean, that's just me. You know, I think that if you got rid of all of them, first of all, I think the country would be a lot better place, and maybe we could get some newspapers back in business. But at the same time, you know, right, the kids, it's been shown over and over and over through studies that are completely unrelated to politics and politicians and stuff, the harmful effects of social media on kids, and TikTok is a part of that. And you know, I know from I'm an adult, and there's times where I get on there and I'm like, oh my God, I've spent 40 minutes now looking at this nonsense, you know, and you know, and it's just, you know, you get kind of sucked into it, and that's not even discussing the harmful stuff that you could see or that could be passed along to kids. And there are, you know, there are options out there for kids to watch on YouTube and things like that. Things that they like and are age appropriate, and that you can kind of monitor and do that. And I'm not like you know, a content Nazi for my daughter, but you know, we do pay attention to what she watches, just like we would pay attention to what library books she picks out, because we're responsible parents and think other parents should be as well. But at the same time, you know, I don't think that that's happening to a large degree with the population. And I support Katie Britt and what she's trying to do with this and how she's going about it, because I think they have shown an irresponsibility at Facebook, at Instagram. You know, I know they're the same company essentially, and X, Twitter, and now at TikTok, to limit what they know kids are watching this stuff. They know what they're doing. And in some cases, they've actually designed algorithms to suck them in. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
You know, years ago, I worked at Cablevision. So, Susan, you did freelance work for them. And we talked about all these things. I mean, that's been 25 years ago, right?
Right.
And we were talking about the influence that this could have positively or negatively. And I remember sitting down with the head of then Cablevision, the man who invented HBO and
Mr. Dolan.
Mr. Dolan, and talking. I said, Mr. Dolan, the things that we're seeing on the internet could be the greatest growth to freedom and democracy in the world. But on the other hand, it could be the single most killer of democracy. And furthermore, it could very well erode the mental health of young people. And he said, well, Britt, which do you think it's going to be? I said, depends on whether the dogs and cats went out, the dog and cat videos, or the people that would choose to make money by doing harm. By doing harm.
And guess what won out?
Yeah, there's still a lot of cats and dogs, but not as many. I mean, of course, they're eating the cats now, right? They're
And the
eating
dogs.
We know that. So maybe that's the problem. But seriously, I mean, it's just been a nightmare. I can't
Caleb
imagine.
Carr wrote a book. I can't remember the name of it right now. I remember reading it during the Al Gore
Killing Time
during Al Gore George Bush fiasco that was a presidential election, and he predicted every bit of this.
Yeah.
This misinformation, this disinformation disseminated through the internet back then.
Yeah, and Josh, it's pretty much coming to pass, and I don't know that there are many guardrails we can put on it. But we got about a minute. I want to switch topics here. You know, we are still seeing this parole system in Alabama in crisis. And I don't know how you fix it. I know Anthony Daniels and some others, especially Chris England, have had some ideas on this. But Josh, give us your perspective on this whole situation with pardons and parole in about 60 seconds, unfortunately.
Well, that's fine. I think Chris England, we had him on our podcast a week ago, and he talked about the problems that they've had over at Pardons and Paroles, and the fact that we've increased paroles to a certain level simply because of public pressure. He said that it's great. He said he's all for the increase of paroles and trying to get it back up to the level where they should be. But at the same time, if we're just doing it based on public pressure, that ought to scare the hell out of everybody too.
Yeah.
Why are we not following a system that's in place that gives us the scores, that gives us the results, that looks at what these guys have done while inside whatever programs they've passed, whatever things they've done, their behaviors and all that, and then scoring it the way we're supposed to. We have that system in place, and I don't understand what the big problem is with having an oversight committee that reviews the policies of the Pardons and Paroles Board and make sure that they're just adhering to the guidelines and that they can at least explain their decisions rationally. What is the problem?
Well, and it seems to be a mess that Pardons and Parole itself is not willing to fix. But there you go. This past week, we lost Lily Ledbetter, a pioneer in equal pay for equal work. She was a great woman, and she will be missed.